The following program is intended for mature audiences.
A democratic republic of sports. The Sportsocracy with ESPN Asheville hosts Tank Spencer and Jeremy Greene.
And we welcome everyone into the Ingalls studio as we have another edition of Mullet's Draft Mailbag here in the Sportsocracy. Check us out at thesportsocracy.com.
Oh, God, that sound just does something to me.
We are only 2 days away. We are only 2 days away from the 2022 NFL Draft. All of your draft questions answered right here each and every day leading up to the big day where we will be covering all 263 picks of the NFL Draft. Live.
It's so good.
From the Ingalls studio. All right, so Jeremy, we already have the questions rolling in, so let's just hop right in.
And let's hit this just so everyone knows. Super chats, we greatly appreciate. But get your questions in. Super chats, as I said, always appreciated. And those do take priority. By the end of this weekend, I'm not going to be speaking English anymore. I think I have been talking for 9 straight hours. I'm drinking water, which should tell you all you need to know.
I was going to say, you talking for 9 straight hours is only nominally less than usual, but
factually inaccurate.
Soaring Eagle wants to know, should the Broncos draft Chad Moma, Dylan Parham, or trade up or down from number 64?
I don't think Moma will be there. I have him going ahead of that in my mock. If he was there, that would be my preference. I have them my 7-round mock draft that will be coming out tomorrow, the final one. Thank God I don't have to do another mock draft for 3 days. My first round for next year will come out Sunday.
Oh, my gosh.
Just so we know. But I have them taking Dylan Parham at 64.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I don't necessarily want to trade up. I want to have as many picks from, I've said 25 to 75. I can even elaborate that even further. 45 to 125. I want to have as many picks there as humanly possible.
Alexis wants to know, is Chad Moma a good pick for the Eagles?
Indeed he is.
And what is the deal that's going to be close for the Eagles? What, I'm not sure what that means.
I don't know what that means. I don't think Philadelphia trades out. I can tell you that there was probably 2 weeks ago, their pick at 15 was between Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt. Now Devontae Wyatt's not a thing anymore because of some domestic violence things that have come out. I'm not saying he's not going to get drafted. He's just going to get drafted lower than you think. Unless there's a team that just thinks it's not something to worry about. Now I've got him in the beginning to middle of the second round. And that actually answers another question. Hosey asked, who's the best 3-tech in the draft? It's Devontae Wyatt. Devontae Wyatt's the best one in the draft, but he comes with huge character red flags at this point. Also, varying degrees of how much that's bothering teams, but it's bothered every team that I have personally spoken to.
Also wants to know, why is Curtis Brooks so underrated?
I don't have a great answer for that. I mean, the best is because this is such a deep draft that guys like that just get washed out with bathwater. And he's not the only one. I mean, trust me, I've been asked the question, who is the most underrated player in this draft? I think 60 times in the last 2 weeks, and I don't think I've answered it the same way yet.
Mm-hmm.
I got asked it today, and the first name that came to my head was George Pickens, who is one of the players that's going to go in the back end of the first round that most people don't expect.
Interesting. Let's see.
Oh, hold on. Got to. This is how Super Chats work. If I can find the
I'm your huckleberry.
Go straight to the top of the list with the Super Chat. Who has the best name in this draft, and why is it Smoke Monday?
That was going to be my answer. I didn't even see the question. I saw the box appear. Smoke Monday has a great name. Also a guy with character red flags. I like Smoke Monday a lot. There are a slew of players in this draft that fit that same kind of role of that hybrid-y linebacker safety thing. And he's one of my favorites in terms of just on-the-field production, but I have been told some less than ideal things about him personally.
Smoke Monday will be this year's best name in the draft.
Kavasi
Next year's
Smoke will be next year's.
Yes.
Yeah, that's still to this day. I just want to name something that.
Yep.
And there's no more children for me.
Right.
It's not physically possible.
Right. Stephen Tao, Wise Tank got sunglasses on now, a couple of cocktails flowing. No, those are transition lenses, and when you go outside, they turn into sunglasses.
He is the reason we can't use ring lights because it will look like he's being sucked into a vortex off his goggles.
Alexa says he means the Eagles close to getting Baker Mayfield.
Nobody is trading for Baker Mayfield. Literally, I mean, if Cleveland took every cent, there might be 2 teams in the league that would consider it.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, he's such a big personality, and he's such an arrogant little shitbird that nobody's going to do. I don't think people understand how badly he is vilified in NFL circles. He has been a running joke for years.
Alexa suggests Jalen Reagor and a 5th-round pick.
I would Philadelphia's getting absolutely totally screwed on that deal.
Follow-up question, is Howie Roseman a good GM? Not if he pulls that deal.
Howie Roseman's a good GM. He gets hammered for the Jalen Reagor thing. He gets hammered for never taking linebackers in the first round. Now, I will tell you that as I was doing the 7-round mock draft, there were several times that I got to a point and went, I don't know what else he's going to do. You may not want to take a linebacker in the first round. You may not have a choice. Corner is weird in this draft. Everybody talks to me about Kyler Gordon, but I don't see the fit outside of certain systems.
Mm-hmm.
I like him in Buffalo. I like him in Tampa. I don't like him specifically in Philadelphia.
This is an interesting question. Who is the best return man in the draft?
Marcus Jones, the corner from Houston.
I wasn't even thinking about him, but yeah.
Christian Watson's probably 2, and then there are a few other guys later in the draft. This is one of those years where, like, Bo Melton's up there pretty high. I don't think anybody's going to specifically be drafted because of the return acumen, because there's so many guys that have it that I would draft on other merits too. Mm-hmm. It's just a pat on the ass.
Will Woody Johnson mess with the Jets draft this year?
No. They believe in Joe Douglas completely. And I'll be honest with you, I do too. That's one of the things that the Jets are one of the hardest teams in this draft to figure out. And I'll tell you why. I know Robert Saleh loves Kayvon Thibodeau. The front office has some issues with his personality. He is very abrasive. Mm-hmm. I had a couple guys at the Combine that actually got to talk to him for a minute. And he has a very arrogant personality. That rubs some teams the wrong way. I've answered this question multiple times across different platforms. With pass rusher, I don't care. You be the most arrogant asshole on the planet. I don't care. See quarterback, get quarterback. If you're doing the Johnny Manziel, dollar bill thing, I don't give a flying rat's ass. Now, in terms of will Woody screw up the draft, no. There are a handful of ways this can go for the Jets. One of them is they take Kayvon Thibodeau at 4, which is what I think happens. And then they sit back and go, there are 5 players we like. None of them are offensive tackles. And whichever one's there at 10 is who we're going to take. Mm-hmm. That's how I think it goes. And I'm getting more not resigned because I do like the kid, that very well could be Garrett Wilson. One of those 2, Green Bay or Kansas City, is going to stand pat. And they're going to, I'm not going to say tempt fate. There are so many receivers in this draft. And a guy like Sky Moore. Some teams have him in the 3rd. Some teams have him in the back end of the 1st. Mm-hmm. I think Kansas City is one of the ones that would have him in the back end of the 1st.
And if that were the case, if Garrett Wilson goes to your Jets, I'm just looking into the future. Is Garrett Wilson now the 1 in that scenario? Is he the 1, Corey Davis is the 2, and then Elijah Moore continues to? No,
I would say Corey Davis is the 2 among the outside guys. Garrett Wilson would be the 1 in the pecking order, and then Elijah Moore would play more out of the slot.
Right.
And then Braxton Berrios would be the 4.
Okay. Is Perry and Winfrey a good prospect?
Absolutely. You just have to know what he is. He's a little light, and he's going to play on the inside. We were talking about 3 techniques earlier. He's my 2 as a 3 technique. And he's going to be a phenomenal pass rusher. I think he actually projects as a 3-4 end. That's where I see him as better. I feel in that kind of Aaron Donald role. He's just not as good against the run. Now, if he ever learns, I'm going to say, I don't remember who I said this about earlier, but, I was talking about Charles Cross. If Charles Cross is ever 75% of the run blocker that he is pass blocker, he's going to be the best left tackle in the league. If Perrion Winfrey's ever 75% of the run stopper that he is against the pass, then he will be the value pick of the draft. I can tell you a lot of fans talk about him. A lot of teams don't, and I don't know why. And it may be just they view him as a one-trick pony, that he's going to come in and as a situational pass rusher, as a defensive tackle or an end. There are a few teams that have been on him. I know the Jets like him. The Minnesota Vikings like him. There's another one, and I can't remember now off the top of my head who it was. I think he goes somewhere early in day 2. I like him as a pass rusher a lot. You just have to know there are some limitations to begin with.
All right, let's go to Glasgow, Scotland for this next question from
Indeed.
Jason Archdeacon. What team is most likely to move into the top 10? And if there are any, who's going to be the target?
That depends on what happens in the top 5. There is a path. Right now, if you look at the betting odds and try to cut through all the bullshit, it looks like 1's going to be Trayvon Walker, 2 will be Aiden Hutchinson, 3 will be Derek Stingley. If that happens, Kayvon Thibodeau goes at 4. Sauce Gardner goes 5 to the New York Giants. The Panthers take their choice of
Ike Ekwonu,
whichever tackle. The Giants take whichever one they don't take between Ekwonu and Charles Cross. Then it gets a little dicey, and there may not be a move in the top 10 because you got to think of what happens from there. Mm-hmm. The Falcons are hot and heavy on Jermaine Johnson. He'd be sitting there at 8. I don't think they would trade down. They might. It depends on how they feel about Ajabo. Can he be that guy with a half a red shirt year? That has not been the inclination I've gotten. But when I had Atlanta trading down, it was under the assumption that the Jets were going to take Jermaine Johnson at 4. If he's there at 8, I don't think they trade down. And if Evan Neal's there at 9, I'm not so sure Seattle trades down. Seattle's been hot on 3 interior linemen, Linderbaum, Ed Ingram, and Zion Johnson. Well, trading down, you're not getting Zion Johnson. Unless you go to the 22-28 route with Green Bay, and then you could take him in front of Dallas. More likely to me has been Kansas City trades up with Seattle. They get 29 and 30, and then they go Linderbaum and a quarterback.
John DeLon says he has a hard time believing that nobody's going to be interested in Baker Mayfield. Even as a backup, he's a guy who does have considerable experience. And then he follows up with, if that is the case, if there are teams that are interested, who are the 2 teams that would be interested in Baker Mayfield?
I don't have one. And the I don't believe no one would be interested in him. Let me give you 2 names, Colin Kaepernick and Cam Newton. Less interest in them than any 2 quarterbacks you will ever see, and there's one reason, because the personality is not a backup. Mm-hmm. You can't have him in the room because there would be certain people, fan base, I struggle to believe any player really buys into him at this point. But no matter who the starter is, they're going to look to him and go, oh, he's our better option. Every time something went wrong, that would be turned to. That's the reason Colin Kaepernick never got a job in the league. You can make that a thing. You can make that anything you want to. The reason he never got another shot was because he was too big a personality. You could bring him in as a starter. You couldn't bring him in as a backup because it's not fair to the starter. There will be a section of the fan base that invariably thinks he would be better than whatever is happening from the starter. Teams will not do that. Mm-hmm. He can vouch for this. I've said that about Cam Newton for 5 solid years, and I've been right time after time after time. New England brought him in to be the starter. Then they brought in Mac Jones and went, oh, cool, we signed you. Bye. Go on now, get.
Yep.
Carolina brought him in, and they regretted it within an hour.
Joshua Schneider says if Green Bay doesn't trade
Tim Tebow.
up.
That's another good one. That's a good call.
There you go.
I knew there was a third one that I always lump these guys together.
If Green Bay doesn't trade up and draft London, Olave, Williams, or Wilson, we riot. We do not need 11 draft picks.
Agreed. And that's one of the reasons I've had Green Bay as the most likely team to trade up. Now, I will tell you they really like George Pickens. And this is one of those things where you have to look at you got to do the tandem drafting thing. All right, if you're Green Bay, would you prefer to go get Garrett Wilson or Jamison Williams? Or would you rather sit there at 22, get George Pickens and Lewis Sin, who I know they're very hot on?
Mm-hmm.
And that just, you got to make a judgment call. And to me, it's 6 one way, half dozen the other. I like Lewis Sin a lot.
Alexis, with some more Eagles questions. Is Kyle Hamilton a good fit for the Eagles?
Yes, and he's their floor. They're his floor.
They are his
backwards.
floor, yes. At 15.
No, not necessarily. Necessarily.
You think they could get him at 19?
Possibly.
Wow.
I mean, I've seen people think he falls into the 20s. I'm just not one of them.
Yeah.
The speed thing drives people crazy, that not knowing what position he plays. He is kind of scheme-specific. Kyle Hamilton's a hard evaluation. And that Chris Olave thing with Washington is getting louder by the day. And I'm not saying I don't get it. I just, that to me, and I've been asked a couple questions about Chad Moma. If Kyle Hamilton does not go at 11, you mark my words, he ain't getting past Washington in the second round.
Mm-hmm. Also, Alexis says, would it be a reach if the Eagles took Perry and Winfrey at 15?
Yes.
How much of a reach? You
Half
have
a round.
him in the second round?
Mm-hmm.
Mid-second round?
He's in that. I think I want to say he's 36. That number's in my head. Does not mean it's right. Let's see. Perry and Winfrey on my big board is
47.
Is he that low?
Yep.
I may have to revisit that.
Okay.
That feels a little low.
Okay.
And he's behind DeMarvin Leal, which he shouldn't be.
All right. So, yes, it would be a reach at 15.
It would be a reach, but now you really got to understand with reaches are very relative in this draft. There are going to be guys that go higher than people expect them to. It's not necessarily a reach. Perry and Winfrey would be, I mean, you would have to think Devontae Wyatt is just a pure scumbag. Some people do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm beholden to what I'm told. Not a cop and I'm not a lawyer.
Hosey wants to know, over or under, how many times does Todd McShay say speed to power?
Oh, 706. Todd, if I took a sip of a beer every time Todd McShay said that, I'd be dead by the 17th pick.
Should we post the drinking game?
Oh, I fully believe we should.
We need to post some kind of a drinking game for the NFL draft coming up on Thursday. So look forward to that. We'll work on that.
I'm your huckleberry.
Rob Johnson with the super chat here. MJD.
And I got to say this again. We greatly appreciate the super chats. The content that's coming out. Look, we make money off YouTube. That I think we all know that. But it takes a lot to produce, and those are the only thing that we get the lion's share of. It's the vast majority. There are times you look at what you make off YouTube and go, I feel like a large percentage of that goes to somebody that's not me.
In the MJD mock draft, he had 4 quarterbacks in the top 10.
Insane.
Hamilton was at 15.
That's not as insane as people think.
And Charles Cross fell to 20.
That's absolutely, completely, ridiculously stupid.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Next question.
And thank you, Rob Johnson, by the way.
Yes. Thank you very much. We appreciate all of those. Stephen Tao, with all the wide receivers in this year's draft, if Debo doesn't get traded before the draft, is he stuck in San Francisco next year?
Stuck? No. They would work it out, though. And look, I'm going to be really honest with you, and this is coming from a guy that is a fan of a team that is probably the most likely to trade for Debo Samuel. If I was San Francisco and you offered me 38 and 69, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Mainly because I feel like I can replace that guy in the third round with somebody that might actually be better at what he does than he is, and that's Wan'Dale Robinson. There are just too many guys that can fill that role. And, Debo's got injury history, and I wouldn't do it.
Right.
That's just me.
One of those guys I thought could be Romeo Doubs, But you said something earlier today that has me thinking, what is the deal with Romeo Doubs?
He can't run a route.
He's falling.
Yeah, he can't. Oh, he's not falling. He was just never as high as everybody thought he was in the first place, because you got to understand, this kid has no clue how to run a route in the NFL. Like, none.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have to run him in a role like that. I really like him in Baltimore.
Is there any chance that the Washington Commanders trade down from 11?
I never say never, but I would struggle to believe it. They've been too hot on a receiver. All right, let's say Atlanta takes Kyle Hamilton at 8. I don't think they're going to go, oh, well, shit. They'll go, oh, no, hey, thanks, you made that decision for us.
Right.
And take a receiver.
Right.
So, again, I'm not going to say no shot, but highly unlikely.
Hosey says, my Bengals are looking for a tight end if they miss out on Trey McBride and Greg Dulcich, who's a late-round guy to keep an eye on.
James Mitchell. The more I watch of him, the more I love him. So, and we intended to do this last year. We're going to do it during the draft this year. And I don't think I've said this yet. So, this year during the draft, in between the 16th and 17th picks, I'm going to make a pick for the 33rd team. Last year, this would have been Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I could have this to go, hey, look how smart I am.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to do that this year.
Okay.
And I don't really remember why I just brought that. Oh, Cincinnati. Brain's only working at about half capacity here today, boys. The caffeine's wearing off. I went to water so I could talk.
How does that tie into Cincinnati?
Yep.
Because they don't pick at 16 or 17.
No, they don't. No. Oh, James Mitchell.
Oh, yeah.
He would probably be – he's going to be one of those guys I say his name 5,000 times. He's got a real interesting story. Like, he was getting direct snaps out of the backfield. I mean, he ran as a running back at times. He's hyper athletic. And he's a very modern-day tight end. Now, just so you know, since you asked the Bengals question, I don't think you're going to miss on Trey McBride. What I find to be the most likely – I would say Cincinnati's a team that I know wants to trade down, and they very well may do it, because the player they're hot to trot on is Andrew Booth. And I've mentioned this a couple times that his name's getting mentioned a little bit more now. It's all out of Cincinnati. They really like him, and they think they're going to get a value in him because he didn't work out. And it's the Jahan Dotson rule.
Right.
If you don't do anything that keeps you front of conscious, you just start getting pushed down. So, like, Kyler Gordon's past him, which makes zero sense. Unless he got a leg amputated at some point, Kyler Gordon should not be in front of him.
Over Andrew Booth.
And
what do you mean? The Draft Network on their consensus big board, they got Andrew Booth at 6.
Yeah, anything that says consensus, you should just hit that X button on the top of your computer.
Yeah, not good. What was the other stupid one we saw today?
I've seen a lot of stupid
It
ones.
wasn't Clay Thorson. It was
Clay Thorson is a USFL quarterback.
It was Thor or something.
Oh, Thor Nystrom.
Yeah, Thor Nystrom released his top 500 players, and Malik Willis is number 1 on the big board.
And Jesus I fully believe Christ. He doesn't believe that. You can't possibly.
It's got to be an attempt to trend.
Clicks.
Yeah, exactly. Victor Shelton, Titans looking at a certain offensive lineman or a wide receiver at number 26.
Sky Moore. Sky Moore's a guy they really like. Offensive lineman, they like Petit Frere, but I actually think he's going to go to Buffalo. He's one of those players. He was in that Pelissero article that pissed me off. Bastard literally took like every end of the first round nugget I had, put it in an article, and slapped his name on it.
Yep.
I don't have any misgiving that he heard that from me.
So Nicholas Petit Frere from Ohio State could be the one.
Because he's a right tackle.
We've also talked about Zion Johnson as a possibility to the Titans.
Zion Johnson's drop dead to the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay. At 24?
4, yeah. 100%. He's not getting past 24. And if you go to betus.com or any other of the sports books, his line of being drafted is 24.5. That should tell you everything you need to know.
Alex S. says, after Ike Ekwonu has creeped up as the number 1 and after Fitterer's press conference, how do I feel like Carolina is going to be screwed at 6? What's stopping them from jumping off of Bank of America?
I actually think that goes the opposite way. I don't think a tackle goes in the top 5. As it sits right now. Now, that could be completely different tomorrow. I am trying not to overreact, but I'm piecing tea leaves that have been thrown out there for 2 weeks.
Right.
I think they're going to have their choice of tackle at 6. The question is who that is. And it's either to me, it's either Cross or Aquino.
All right, we've got another super chat from Rob Johnson.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Buttons.
Darren Waller being moved to the Pack for a first-rounder and replaced with Treylon Burks. Any chance that happens, or is it all lies?
Zero. It's all lies. This is lie week. Just remember, it's all. If you hear something this week that you look at and go, that sounds like bullshit, it's because it is. That was the Green Bay Packers' way of saying, we're trying to do everything to find weapons. That's actually – so I'm going to tell you the way my brain works. That Darren Waller thing is the reason I don't have Green Bay trading up anymore. They put that out there because they feel comfortable at receiver to not trade up because it's gotten so popular. And you have to be careful with public narratives. I wasn't the only one saying Green Bay could trade up to get Garrett Wilson or somebody like that. They're trying to position that they're doing everything to put the weapons around Rodgers because there's somebody that they're hot to trot on. I think it's George Pickens. I could be wrong. Could be Christian Watson.
Jason Trump wants to know, what do the Steelers do if Willis isn't there at their pick in the first round?
Tyler Linderbaum is a guy that I know they're really fond of at 20. If he was not there, here's the thing. If Malik Willis or any of the other quarterbacks are not there, that means somebody got pushed down. So Pittsburgh's one of the smartest teams in the league. They would probably just go, hey, how'd you let him fall to us? Who that would be? I don't see Penny getting that far. Tyler Linderbaum's that's the name that I just keep coming back to. And then they could also try to make a pairing with Bush. There could be a corner there. And I'm going to level. I'll tell you another of my little mock draft secrets. When I can't tell you a second player, that tells you that they're all in. And they wouldn't be that way if they thought there was any risk that anybody's going to take him.
Yeah.
Malik Willis scares the hell out of NFL teams.
Why? Is it because the lack of knowledge of running a pro-style offense, or?
Well, I'm going to take the first phrase that you said because that's more accurate than what you ended it with.
Okay.
Because there are a large percentage of fans, not any of the wonderful ones that watch this show, you're all smart people. There's a large percentage of fans that are, how do I say this nicely, fucking morons. And the fear is that you're going to draft Malik Willis. Atlanta, I'll tell you this, was said verbatim to me. Our fear is we're going to draft Malik Willis. We're going to sit him by, because they do like Malik Willis. We're going to sit him behind Marcus Mariota. In the first 2 interception game he has, they're going to be booing us out of the rafters to put him in the game.
Yep.
And eventually, we just can't not do it. They will turn on us to such a point that we're never going to be able to say, oh, he's not ready to play. Because the Jordan Love thing starts creeping in of, oh, do they already know that he's a bust? And then you start talking about him, and it is a disaster waiting to happen. The reason it works in Pittsburgh, they have smart fans.
Yeah.
I mean, in large part, they have smart fans. They just trust the organization. I've watched them do it. You know, find an old Steeler fan and ask how they feel about the front office.
Right.
Hell, they just figured it out. But you take a bad team, Atlanta, the Jets, and I'm not saying that these teams need quarterbacks. I'm telling you, as a fan of the organization, I watch them get turned on. There are Jets fans that are already ready. Hey, let's package Zach Wilson with both our ones this year for Kyler Murray. Stop talking. Like, there should be a button on all social media that if you hit it enough times, that person's on conversation probation for 48 hours. The report button on Facebook, I know, but okay. What are you, a cop?
Jason N. wants to know, have you ever thought about putting dreadlocks in your beard?
I've never thought about that, but I will tell you I have a nervous habit, and I tend to do this when I watch film, of I'll spin it.
Yeah, twist it.
I'll twist it, and then I twist it into a knot that I can't get out. Look, I was committed to this hair arrangement until after the draft. There's a better than zero chance when you see me the first time after the draft, I ain't gonna look like this anymore.
Really? Well, that's promising.
Well, it would be the face, not the head hair.
Oh, you're
I'm not cutting that till the day before I get married. Like that. Now it's almost like a line in the sand. My soon-to-be wife is way hotter than me.
Right.
And she just despises it, and I low-key love it. But now the beard is I am aggressively tired of this shit.
But you're not going to get rid of all of it.
Oh, God, no.
No.
Because then I look like an 8-year-old with a glandular problem, and I don't want to do that.
Right. You will look like you will look like John Adams.
I'll look like baby Huey's illegitimate brother with a weird 5 o'clock shadow. No, there will be none of that.
Nice. Hosey says, do you believe you can develop quarterbacks?
Yes.
Outside of Josh Allen, most guys improve, but you never see that in most.
Okay. One of these days, when I learn to write, I'm going to write a book, and it's going to be called something to the effect of Every Quarterback Can Be a Star. Now, there are maybe 4 in my lifetime that ever completely buck in the face of that. You ever notice that draft busts tend to come from about 6 teams? There's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
It ties into that Malik Willis thing I just said. Impatient fan bases, bad coaching staffs, constant turnover. Look, I will believe this until my dying day. In the right situation, Ryan Leaf would have been fine. He was a dumpster fire. He was a dumpster fire in a dumpster fire organization, and it all started rolling downhill, and once the momentum had gotten too much, there was nowhere to go. Jamarcus Russell does not play into this because, how do I put this nicely? I would like my quarterback to have an IQ above the bottle of water I'm drinking right now. Josh Rosen, he was never going to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, even like Blake Bortles, you never had a shot. He was developing reasonably well, the talent around him, and then the team got hemorrhaged, and then he didn't have the talent anymore, and he just crashed into and the expectations got way too high.
Given your choice between these 2 wide receivers, Alex S. wants to know, would you rather have Stephon Diggs or Deebo Samuel?
Stephon Diggs, not close. Not even kind of close.
Mm-hmm.
Stephon Diggs is one of my 5 favorite receivers in the NFL. He's also one of the first great draft hits I ever had. The year he came out, he went in the 5th round, I think.
Something like that.
I had a first-round grade on him. He was one of the first great hits I ever had. And it all came off of one tape because he fucking slaughtered Florida State at Maryland when they shouldn't have even been competitive with that team on the field. And I watched him and went, I do not understand how people are not seeing this.
Jason Archdeacon wants to know, is Kyle Hamilton falling mainly due to the combine, or does he not have the traits to play deep safety? Is he just very scheme dependent? Would he play at linebacker, box safety role, which isn't valued?
There are a couple things that are hurting Kyle Hamilton. One, no matter where you look at him, he is playing a less than highly valued position because he's either a safety or he's an off-ball linebacker. Neither of those are valued very highly. And I want you to think about what I'm going to say. If you value him as a box linebacker, why would you take him ahead of Devin Lloyd, who's been doing this for many, many years and is completely ready to come in and contribute to you right away? Why would you take him over Quay Walker, who has all the raw tools and is faster? It doesn't make sense. Now, at some point, the value of the player gets to be too much because I think Kyle Hamilton's a better version of Jamal Adams. That's who I see him as. I think you can play him not as a single high safety. That's where I think people are getting us fucked up, is that, no, he's not a single high safety. The 4-7 thing, I don't really care because I'm going to use his ability to just do everything. And he's going to play more of that Isaiah Simmons role where, yeah, I can drop him out, split coverage or something like that. But I'm also going to use him in the box. I'm going to use him as a blitzer, and I'm just going to use him as a weapon. And I think that's where his value is, and people get kind of misguided by that. People think Jamal Adams just sucks. There's a guy that watched him for many years. He doesn't suck. You just have to know how to use him. And you also have to know that his ball skills are less than ideal.
Mm-hmm.
His ball skills are not Courtney Love good, okay? That's where I'm headed with that.
Jupy asks, the Cardinals, do they trade up for a receiver?
Trade up, no. I don't see a humanly possible way they don't take George Karlaftis at 23. I think that is his drop dead. The hate on him got ridiculous, and I think the Cardinals see the value in him. Now, in terms of receiver, there is a receiver, and I'm not going to lie to you. I apologize. I pride myself on not doing this. I can't remember his fucking name. It's a late round receiver, and there are a couple others that they could. I could see them taking at some point in the draft.
Josh Johnson.
No, it's not Josh Johnson.
Isaiah Weston.
I love Isaiah Weston. Do not speak your slander on Isaiah Weston.
I'm trying to throw out wide receiver names to see if that jogs your memory.
No. It's not a player like that. This is somebody they're hot to try. This is like Samori Toure for the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a later round guy that they think they could develop. And if my computer would go, I'd put a pin in that. I promise we'll come right back to that.
The Drummond kid from
Dontario Drummond.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I'm out.
I have Dontario Drummond going to the Washington Commanders late in the draft. His name is Jaquez Ezzard. He's from Sam Houston State.
Never would have got there.
He's an interesting prospect. He's the guy we'll talk about in day 3 of the draft. Now, in terms of, they really like Treylon Burks. The only problem is he's not going to be there. Treylon Burks is one of the weirdest evaluations in this draft. I'm not trading up for him because I think he's a big version of Deebo Samuel. I would love him in Arizona, but a lot of things would have to go much differently than I think they're going to for that to make sense.
Let's see here. Looking for another question. The screen keeps jumping on me, so I apologize. Steven Tao says you should do the Scott Ian beard braid from Anthrax. That
takes way too much work. Joshua Snyder said apparently Green Bay was going to get Waller in the Adams deal, but they couldn't do it because Adams didn't sign the franchise tag. I'm going to say this as clearly as I can. A, lying week. Always remember that. B, I had this specifically told to me. They're not trading Darren Waller for a damn thing. Unless every player can be had. Mm-hmm. If you're ready to do some dumb shit, it would have to be insanity for them to trade Darren Waller because they really like the way the offense is set right now. You mark my words, they're going to take a speed receiver in this draft. I don't think it's going to be Tyquan Thornton, but there's another one. If you're a Raiders fan, mock draft will be out tomorrow. And I started here, I went away from it, and now I'm back. Darren Waller's going nowhere. He's on such a good team deal.
Rob Johnson said if Waller was to go to Green Bay, he'd definitely take him in the first round of his fantasy draft and wouldn't even think about it.
As well, you should. Here's the thing. Teams don't – you got to understand something, especially when you sign a quarterback like that. It would be one thing if he was expiring. He has 2 years left on that deal. That's one of the team-friendliest deals in the NFL. Like, you get lists from beat writers and shit like that of the best contracts or the best values in the league. Darren Waller's in the top 5 of all of them. You don't make a big habit of getting rid of those deals when you sign a quarterback to a bigger deal. I know his deal doesn't hit for a year. You don't often say, this is not like the NBA where you're going to get much better trade capital because nope, doesn't work that way.
Rank your top 5 wide receivers and who they fall to. This is from Jupy.
My number 1 is
Drake London. I know you love him.
I do. And my number 1
had him at 1 for a long time.
Yeah, I have, and I'm not going to come off that. Don't change your mind late in the process. Drake London's my 1. I think his high side's probably the Jets at 10. His drop dead's the Saints at 16. Garrett Wilson's my 2. I think somebody's going to end up trading up for him. The Jets love him, and they don't think he's going to be there at 10. So that would tell me somebody's going to have to trade up to get him. Unless Atlanta took him, which I don't think that's really likely. 3 is Jameson Williams, and everybody loves him. And I couldn't even project a team because I don't think whoever that team is in the position that they're currently sitting in. Vegas thinks it's the Jets at 10. I don't buy that. And then 4 is Treylon Burks, and 5 is Chris Olave. Burks could go anywhere. The Texans have just been really hot on him. And then Olave, I've heard a lot about Washington. I think his drop dead is probably Philly. I think if Philadelphia took a receiver in the first round, it would be him. They're not going to be high enough to get a couple of the others, and I just think that's the one that could fall in their laps, and maybe Minnesota had to take Trent McDuffie or something like that, and there's no corner there that they're evaluating high enough, and they take Chris Olave as their fallback.
Jonathan Welch wants to know, would it be a reach for the Seahawks at number 9 to take Tyler Linderbaum?
No. You don't have to, because there's just not many landing spots for him. Some people are getting really revved up about the short arms thing. That's not it. The problem is that the NFL has just never valued center the way they value tackle. Now, if you're an analytics guy, like I am to a degree, then that actually says that center is not quite as valuable, but it's damn close. It would not be a reach to me. I love Tyler Linderbaum. He's in my top 10. He's been in my top 10. He's going to be in my top 10. Whoever takes him is going to get an A+ for it, because I have a feeling they're going to take him in a pick that starts with either a 2 or a 3, and there's another digit behind it.
By the way, Flostradamus' big board, he's 6.
Yeah, I love Tyler Linderbaum.
And Jonathan Wells says, although I do believe that Schneider's going to trade that pick to Kansas City.
As do I.
Do you think, this is from Jason N., that Buffalo will make a big splash trading up in the first round to pick Breece Hall?
No, I think it's more likely they sit where they are in round 2 and take him. And I'll tell you this. This is just intel I have. You can take it for what it's worth. James Cook is actually the hottest running back in this class, and Buffalo is hard-cocked on him. Breece Hall, I don't see a way he gets past the Texans. And, yes, I know they have 500 running backs. I get it. I didn't say it's what I'd do. I don't see how they're not going to.
So the Texans in the second round?
That's where I've had him. And a lot of other people have too. They've been hot on Breece Hall. Kenny Walker ends up with the Washington Commanders. They're just really into taking another running back. And I'm not telling you I understand it. It's just what I hear. And then James Cook actually is the one that goes to the Bills.
Poor Antonio Gibson.
Well, they just don't want him to have all of the toad, and I get
it.
Antonio Gibson has that Carry-On Johnson disorder.
But he still has numbnuts.
Yeah, it's J.D. McKissick.
Yeah,
J.D. McKissick's okay. J.D. McKissick's like Darren Sproles without gimmicky speed. He's a 3. I'm going to start doing that with shitty running backs that you reference like that. He's a 3, he's a 3, he's a 3. Still he's a guard.
Who? J.D. McKissick?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They actually...
I don't disagree. I'm just... It's one of those things, like, you got Antonio Gibson. Give him all of the toe.
Don't give him all of the toe. You want him to die? That's how he dies.
Yeah.
Basketball player built running backs should never get all of the toe. I know it sucks for your fantasy team, but it's for the betterment of your franchise. That's the way it should go.
Rob Johnson says MJD also had Breece Hall going in the first round.
He did. Yeah, I saw that as well. There's no running back going in the first round of this draft. If one does, it's James Cook, and it's because he has dirty pictures of somebody. That's the only thing that makes it. I thought I loved him.
Herbert or Burrow? Seeing this argument a lot on TikTok, it's bugging the hell out of me. Which one? Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow? I mean, it's hard to go against Joe Burrow. It's
Burrow, but it's kind of like it's kind of like that. Hey, would you rather bang Kate Beckinsale or Kate Upton?
Kate Upton.
Both. Either. How about you pick first, and I'll just take the one you don't take.
Hashtag
okay?
Team Upton.
I mean, for me, it's.
Who cares?
I mean, I hate to use a Cat Williams line here, but we fucking either way.
To quote Jeremy's hero, who the fuck cares?
Yeah, hey, I got that. I have that button. It's not my hero either. Just
who the fuck cares?
I mean, come on. Can we all see Jeremy coming in here with an eyebrow ring?
He's okay. I mean, I don't have a skin tag on my eyebrow that can hold that thing in place in the most perilous way humanly possible. If you put a gun to my head, though, and made me answer it, I would say Joe Burrow, but it's just by a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Jason N. says he thinks that Buffalo will go after Breece Hall in the first round.
And they could. They've been really hot on Petit Frere. And they like Kyler Gordon too. Buffalo's one of those teams I look at and go, you're too smart for that. We figured this out about running backs in the first round. It's exactly like I said earlier about taking a corner in the top 5. This almost never goes your way. And it's one of those things that, all right, so fifth-year options. I'm going to elaborate, and I'm sure I'll touch on this on draft night. But, all right, so you get a fifth-year option on players you take in the first round. Why the hell would you want that on a running back? I'm not going to pay you more than $10 million anyway.
Right.
Fifth-year option on a quarterback is the difference between I have to pay you $40 million or I have to pay you $14.
Right.
It's just not using your capital the right way. See, if I'm Buffalo, all right, let's say I want Breece Hall. If I'm Buffalo, Jacksonville, how much you want to get up here and get Quay Walker in front of Detroit? Mm-hmm. Well, you lost on the trade value chart. Well, I won in the long run because I don't have a fifth-year option on a running back. By the way, if you look at the top 5 contracts, they're all albatrosses.
Very true.
Raiders getting ready to make this decision on Josh Jacobs. It's not that they don't love him. It's I don't want to pay you like Ezekiel Elliott.
Victor Shelton says, what factors lead to teams drafting or evaluating quarterbacks so poorly?
Depends on who the kid is. They all have arm talent. The question is a lot between the ears. And there's a lot of guys that have $1 million arms and 10-cent brains. Mm-hmm. I say this about people that do what we do. There are a lot of people that have $1 million voices and 10-cent opinions.
Yep.
And that's I give you a bunch of those over the years. And then you get a guy like Kenny Pickett that I really believe in his – I wish I could take his brain and put it in a quarterback with a drastically better arm. And that's one of the things I miss. And, Gruden had his issues, and obviously he couldn't do this. But I wish somebody would take the mantle of doing that quarterback camp thing he did.
Yep.
Because it was one of the greatest ways to evaluate a quarterback ever in a very short dose of, you don't seem to understand what you're talking about as clearly as you should.
So you said you want somebody with a better arm to have Kenny Pickett's brain.
Yes.
Does it shock you that he only got a 17 on the Wonderlic?
No. And, I mean, look, the Wonderlic's an important – I've always said the Wonderlic's undervalued to the masses. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, so long as you don't get Vince Young got drool on the Wonderlic.
Right.
So that's one of those you should be able to look at and go, you got a 6. You had 12 minutes.
Yeah. Of the scores that have been reported, only Matt Corral scored lower than Kenny Pickett on the Wonderlic, who scored a 15. Kenny Pickett had a 17. And the top side of it, Bailey Zappi got the number 1 score on the Wonderlic for the quarterbacks in this draft at 35. Sam Howell was second with 34.
Bailey Zapp, by the way, has clearly passed Carson Strong. Carson Strong, was taken off the board by some teams because of the medical. I won't be shocked if he lasts forever. Big drop-off from the quarterbacks to Bailey Zapp. And no, I'm not calling him Zappy. If you want your name to be Zappy, change it to Zappy.
So he needs to put an E, or he needs to put a Y where the E is?
Yeah.
Or put a Y at the end of the E.
Or go IE like every slutty girl at every trailer park bar in the world. Just throw an I on the end of it.
Again. I had my wife. Her name is Andy.
And here's the thing. And here's the thing. I forget that.
He does
every single time I say that.
Every time he does it, I'm like, I mean, I was getting ready to say thank you for cleaning that up and putting the E on the end of it, but then you went no, just go with the I. And
Brandy with an I. That girl will ruin your credit. She will put cigarettes out on your couch, and your friends will hate her.
Guess what? Andy with an I will too. Can we please start referring to Washington?
You better be glad your wife doesn't watch this show.
I know. Can we please start referring to Washington's nickname as the team formerly known as the Redskins?
On this show, yes. On the ESPN show, no. Because somebody invariably will get pissed about it. And enough people get pissed at me as it is. I can't wait to hear somebody say, you're not sensitive to mental health issues about what I said about Ben Simmons.
Jason Archdeacon wants to know, what are the rumors about who Dallas likes, and can I hope that they pick another Taco Charlton?
Dallas is really hot on Zion Williamson. Jesus. Zion Johnson. I mean, although at the rate Zion Williamson's eating, I do think he could play nose tackle in the NFL.
Bust.
He's not a bust. Zion Johnson is most likely the pick at 24. The player to watch later on, they love DeMarvin Leal. They're one of the few teams that see the high side in DeMarvin Leal.
Mm-hmm.
And I like him. Our buddy Matt Miller posted this on Twitter earlier. Like, what happened to every Texas A&M player? And I commented back and said, they realized they were coached by Jimbo Fisher. So they're going to take a little more work than you thought they would.
Right. Who's your 6 to 10 ranked wide receivers, and what happened to Jalen Tolbert? Seems like he's faded.
Jalen Tolbert he's got that Jahan Dotson disorder. He didn't do anything that was super splendiferous, and so he's just kind of – he also didn't run as fast as you would think for a guy that was a predominant deep threat.
Mm-hmm.
More of a project. I mean, I still have Tolbert. He's in my top 100-ish. He's 109.
I'm looking at your big board, and according to the big board, it goes
Christian Watson,
yep.
Jahan Dotson,
Yep.
Sky Moore, George Pickens should be higher than that. And I'm going to have to edit the big board. And then Wan'Dale Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
I love Wan'Dale Robinson. Just let that be known when he gets drafted. If you don't like him, you should probably go piddle at that time. Because I'm going to wax poetic about him like we used to touch tips in college. I want the Jets to take him real bad as opposed to trading for Debo. Take Wan'Dale at 69 and be fucking done with it.
Nola Dynasty says, I think that Atlanta might be trying to mimic the Saints' success. Superstar cornerback that falls due to injury. I can see Stingley going there for some reason. Well, Vegas has him as the odds-on favorite to be the third pick overall to the Houston Texans.
Stingley just has a wide variety. It depends on when you think lying week started. If you think lying week started about Wednesday of last week, then yes, and Minnesota would be his drop dead at 12. As of right now, his drop dead's 5 to the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends, and that's one of those things that I'm not gonna lie, it's really hard to cut through the bullshit. Because I'm telling you right now, even if you have contacts in the room, they won't tell you. If it's all smoke screen, they're going to feed the smoke screen right back at you.
John DeLon says, ballpark, the odds that we see 3 or more teams trading into picks 20 through 32 for a quarterback.
3 or more?
For a quarterback.
This is one of the things that's really hard about this draft because I don't know what's going to happen in the top 10. 8 and 9 are such flux picks. If Seattle trades back, they're taking a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
If Seattle trades back, their goal is to go Tyler Linderbaum quarterback. If Atlanta trades back, their goal is to go high upside pass rusher quarterback. The Indianapolis Colts are interested in a quarterback. The Tennessee, do you believe the Desmond Ridder thing with the Tennessee Titans? 3, I'm going to say under. I think you will see 1, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I very easily could see it being with the Detroit Lions. The Lions are throwing out smoke screens that they really like Kenny Pickett. I have not heard that until the last about 3 days, which makes me think they're trying to drum up interest for 32 to come off of it and have somebody come up for a quarterback. The Indianapolis Colts really like Sam Howell. Other than that, it gets really hard to figure out where these guys land.
Day Saints #1, will Jimmy G or Baker Mayfield be traded on Friday during the draft?
Jimmy G, maybe, I would say 6% chance. San Francisco looks at it and goes, hey, there's a guy we really like. Carolina's willing to give up a 2 next year or something like that. There's just not many teams that need quarterbacks. Jimmy G, I'll say there's a 5 to 7% chance. Baker Mayfield, there's a better chance of me going vegan.
Stephen Tao is Team Beckinsale.
100%.
In her underworld outfit.
100%.
I'd rather she have an office.
I don't even like vampires and shit, but and I've never seen that movie and I never will. But those weird blue contact things.
How many trades do you think will happen on draft day?
Round 1, I'll go. 1 happens for a receiver. At least 1 happens for a quarterback. And then there's going to be somebody weird. I'll say 3.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say 3 first-round trades. I think the over-under in Vegas is 3.5.
Rob Johnson says he's Team Carmen Electra.
Ian, she's old enough to be. Well, no, she's not. God, I'm old. Fuck.
Yeah, you are.
Actually, she is old enough to be my mother. She turned 50. I had 40 in my head. She could be my mom.
Yeah.
And I could be her dad. Sorry.
John DeLon's on Salma Hayek.
Yep. Ian.
Ageless Beauty. Colts fan here. Bradley Presley says, who is an early target for the Colts and who's a later target?
The Colts have been attached to just a slew of receivers. Like I said, they do like Sam Howell. The question is how much? And that's one of those that you got to kind of figure that out for yourself. And I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about me. Mm-hmm. And that gets kind of hard to cut through. I'll tell you, when I did when I was working through the 7-round mock draft, there's a chance that Sam Howell falls right in their lap. And if he's sitting there at 42? I don't know that they could pass him up. I mean, that's just a team that's a really smart franchise that has the next one before the last one is gone. Targets that they're attached to, I know they really like Velus Jones. Don't be shocked if they take a tight end. And take this with a grain of salt, but I had somebody tell me they really like Jelani Woods. And then you get into the defense. They have spent a lot of their time on defense. So I could easily see them adding another defensive line piece early. I'm trying to give you Eric Johnson, Missouri State. There are two teams that I know are really hot on him. The Colts are one, and the New Orleans Saints are the other. Best player that was not invited to the combine.
Guy says who would have been better off staying in college?
Oh, God. See, that's a tough question for me to answer because I am of the belief as a running back, if you will get drafted, you should come out. I don't care where I don't care if you're the last pick in the draft. You should come out. Any of the quarterbacks, it's hard because next year you're just going to get washed out.
Mm-hmm.
And I do love this myth that there are like 4 stud, no doubt quarterbacks. No, there are a lot of guys that could be, and we think 2 of them may end up being that. Guy that should have stayed in school. Wan'Dale Robinson is the name that's coming to me because he's just been flushed out in this receiver class. The tight ends, there's so many tight ends in this draft. I mean, there are going to be guys that go in the 6th and 7th round, and if you hadn't been around here for long, they call me the tight end whisperer for a reason because that is the position I absolutely am enamored with, and I pay a lot of attention to. And this is like Baskin-Robbins. There are 31 flavors, and it does not matter what flavor you're after. There is one out there that will do what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like Girls at Last Call. Make them laugh.
Points for Jason N. and for Stephen Tao, as they both said Baker Mayfield should have stayed in college.
Yeah, that's good.
Good for y'all.
That's good. I like
good
that
for
a lot.
Y'all. Guy also wants to know, or actually, excuse me, Mike Armstrong. He had the question first here. Will the linebacker core be addressed by the Washington Commanders?
Yes, it's just a question of when. Could be Kyle Hamilton at 11 because I think if you're going to take him that high, he's going to run some hybrid kind of position. It's getting more and more likely to me that they go receiver at 11 and then they take Chad Moma in the 2nd round. They're going to take linebacker early.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a question of which one. Because you got to find somebody that pairs well with Jamin Davis to get the most out of him. For him to be sideline to sideline, I know he played out of position at times last year. They were moving him around trying to find someone. The problem is that you overdrafted him. He's an RAS guy that people just pooped their pants about and went, oh, he's so good. No, he's way rawer than you think because he was on a tremendously talented defense. Look at how many of them are getting drafted this year. He was just the first one to come out.
Right.
And look, I'm not saying I don't like him. Complimentary drafting. You need to use a draft pick this year to get the most out of him. Chad Moma is just the one that makes the most sense to me because he's so damn smart when I watch him on film. And he allows Jamin Davis to be that rangy, just fly around the ball, consequences be damned, because Moma will make up for it on the backside.
Guy is asking about the New England Patriots, who they are targeting in the first round. You have said that Devin Lloyd.
I don't see how
is
they
the
don't.
one.
Devin Lloyd just does so much of what Bill likes that I think that would be tough. I know there was a time they were looking at receiver, but the Devontae Parker deal took that out. If a corner were to fall, I wouldn't be shocked. I think it's more likely that Bill probably goes double up, triple up. Watch Jack Jones out of Arizona State. I've seen Bill do this enough times with guys that have character issues, but the talent is just through the roof. Watch him take him slightly earlier than people think and turn him into a stud because he has that kind of talent. Other than that, I know they liked Jordan Davis, but he's not going to be there. If you put a gun to Bill's head and made him tell you the truth, he'd probably say, good God, I would love to trade down. But he will probably in my opinion, he will probably take the best linebacker on the board. He's one of the few now that I think would take Devin Lloyd over Quay Walker.
All right, we have breaking news.
Uh-oh. Oh, shit.
Come on.
Who's gonna break the news? Who's gonna break the news? Who's gonna break the news? Who's gonna break the news?
Oh, yeah, I do have.
It's interesting that we were just – I was just giving Jeremy the update on this earlier today, but this was before this update. A grand jury has indicted former Georgia linebacker Adam Anderson and charged him with the rape of a 21-year-old woman in a house in Athens on October the 29th.
He is completely off the board.
Yep.
Yeah, that takes him completely off the board.
Man, he could have been the number one pick in this draft. And,
well, that's a gross over-exaggeration.
Okay.
I mean, that is your Georgia fan glasses showing, because that is a gross exaggeration. He could have been a top 15 pick. The talent's certainly there, but now with the legal issues, obviously. And look, if you haven't watched the show for a long time, we're not lawyers, we're not cops, so we don't comment on those things. We give you the information and
moving on.
Yep. So completely off the board.
Yep. Whatever happened to the big tackle from Minnesota? I'm guessing that's
Falele.
Yep. He disappeared from boards.
It's not that he disappeared. It's just that he's the next after the upper tier. There's just a drop. If the top four tackles are obviously the guys that could play on the left side, and then you've got the drop down to Petit Ferrer, and there's a couple others that I could see. He's the top of the Max Mitchell tier, and then there's another drop off from that to like Kalen Dyche, of which I think Kalen Dyche is the same age I am. That's only a nominal exaggeration. I think he's 25.
Yeah, Falele, it seemed
and he's
like
a specific scheme fit too, because there's a lot of teams that just look at guys like that and go, "You're always going to get obliterated by speed rushers."
But it seemed like he took a pretty decent hit at the Senior Bowl when he was losing in the individual workouts.
Yeah, I mean that didn't help. I still think he goes in the third round. I think he's a mid to late day 2 pick. Beginning to middle to end of the third. Just depends on who falls for him enough.
Let's see. Wan'Dale Robinson is like a smaller, faster version of Kadarius Toney. They both do that shaking thing.
Yes, they're just, hey, get him the ball and let him do good shit. That's actually a positive. At least I think it is. I still like Kadarius Toney, by the way. Didn't like him at 20, but he was a hot prospect in that draft last year. Urban Meyer still, to this day, if he ran into Dave Gettleman, he would kick him right in the dick. I have never in my life, all the time I've done this, I have never had somebody tell me that a coach went more off the rails because somebody got taken in front of him than Urban Meyer. He pooped in his brain so bad that he just went, Travis Etienne, he's close enough. I shit you not. I've had that more than one person tell me that. Well, that he was so dumbfounded that somebody would take Kadarius Toney ahead of him. But that was his only plan.
Well, that's where all of that, we're going to run Travis Etienne out of the slot thing came from.
And then he died.
Any low-scoring RAS guys that you still believe in?
Oh, God, yeah. Jalen Weidermeyer, the hatred on him has gotten to a stupid point. He's still going to get drafted. Matt Miller had him, I think, in the late 6th. And that's the one that's been saying the most aggressively, he won't get drafted. Yeah, he will. He's still got to watch the tape. RAS is a good tool, and I use it. You'll see it on draft night. It'll be out there for all of these guys. You just have to be careful. Vernon Golston was a perfect 10, according to RAS, which is funny because he played like he was 10 and scared of everyone. Mm-hmm. So, it's a tool. And to me, where people really screw that up is that they lose their shit on guys that go really high. Trayvon Walker. And then if you don't score well, you just die. And, if you threw a 0, go through the list of zeros. They're dudes that I think of all the zeros, I've maybe heard of 4 of them. But, yeah, you can score badly on that and still be – it changes my opinion, but not to the, hey, he sucks and doesn't belong in the league point.
The relative athletic score is something that I never put a whole lot of stock into.
Yeah, and you should put some.
And
it's an analytics metric. It's gotten more popular in the last few years. Mm-hmm. There's certainly a merit to it. And trust me, it's not an accident that if you look at the perfect 10s, they'll all get drafted and the zeros won't.
Right.
Where we fuck this up is guys that are 2 points higher than we thought they would be after they run through the combine, they jump 2 rounds. And that's insane to me. Now, there are some times that I look at a guy and go, holy shit, the raw on you is Isaiah Weston. The raw on you is so good that, all right, I'll bump you up a round or 2. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. He went from 6th round guy to me to 4th-ish round.
Okay.
Now, I'm not as drunk on him as, some people think he's going to go in day 2. And to me, that's going to be a little bit of a reach, but.
Let's see here. Nola Dynasty says, that he wants the Saints to wait on a wide receiver, build up the trenches with 16 and 19, get Wan'Dale Robinson and Calvin Austin the third with 49 and 98, or trade up. Then they'd be pretty nice with Jameis.
You would also have the smallest receiving corps in the world. Look, I like Wan'Dale. He's more of a back end of the 3rd. Calvin Austin, you've got the number. You're a little low. I've got Calvin Austin going to the Browns. The Browns are drunk on him. That, by the way, that's the reason you haven't seen Jarvis Landry sign in Cleveland.
Right.
Because if they draft Calvin Austin, that's a hat on a hat.
Yeah.
They don't do the same thing, but they play the same position. But, I wouldn't hate that. The only problem is that then you've got 3 slot receivers. To me, and look, I like Marquez Callaway. I like Marquez Callaway as a 3. I want Michael Thomas to be your 1. I'd like you to legitimately have a solid 2. You know the way to prop up Jameis Winston? Put the weapons around him. Mm-hmm. They love Tyler Smith. So, that's going to be one of those 2 picks. I'm very sure of that. And if you ever want to know how you want to watch those things, just notice that you don't ever see him mocked to anybody except the New Orleans Saints and the Tennessee Titans. And the reason that happens is because some team starts pushing him up because it gets out that they're really fond on him, which is what happened with the Saints. And then other teams start going, what are we missing? The Saints see him as a tackle. A lot of teams see him as a guard.
Okay. Let's see. I don't see any other questions. Any other questions? Fire away. Oh, we're already past the hour mark here.
Oh,
look how that goes.
Hour and 10 minutes, just
rattling away.
Now I'm going to go sit at home with a glass of ice because I got 4 more days of this.
That's right. We will have all
By
of
the end of this, I'm going to sound like Doc Rivers.
We'll have all of your Draftmas
Jordan
Eve coverage.
Stout, great pick in the 7th round. Jordan Stout, love a punter.
Draftmas Eve coverage right here in the Ingles studio tomorrow. We'll start it up at 3 o'clock with the ESPN Asheville show, of course, streamed right here on YouTube. We will have another Mullets mailbag after tomorrow's show at 5 o'clock.
Yep, and we'll have the ESPN show will be recorded. That will be our mock draft on Thursday. Mm-hmm. So I really need to cover this. If you're listening to it on iHeart and you're watching it on YouTube, they're not going to sync up. There's no commercials on YouTube. 4-minute commercial breaks on ESPN. Nothing we can do about that.
Right.
So it's going to play faster on YouTube. And that's just so we can get set up for draft night. Oh, it's 2 more sleeps.
Yep.
2 more sleeps, and we're here, baby. We're here, baby.
All the picks will be covered live right here in the Sportsocracy. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video as well. We appreciate everybody taking the time out with us today, and we will see you back here tomorrow at 3. I'm Tank Spencer. He's Jeremy Greene. We always come to you from the Ingles studio. Ingles Supermarkets, low prices, love the savings. We'll see you next time.